All right, this video is for worksheet 3-5 for discovering pre-algebra part 1, and this one we're going to be doing slope. So just a reminder, the slope formula is y2 minus y1 and over x2 minus x1. So first let's go ahead and label our x and y's. 0.1, 0.2. Remember those 1s and 2s are not to stress you out or anything. It's to keep you straight. It's to number our points and make sure we're getting the right values from our points into each part. So for the first one, I want the second point y value, which is a 5, and the first point y value, which is a 1. Second point x value, which is a 4, minus the second point x value, which is a -2. Now I got to clean up my double negative here. And when I do my math, I'm going to get a 4 over 6, which reduces down to 2/3. All right, for the next one, you can do it. You can actually flip-flop your 0.1 and 0.2 if you want, and you'll still get the same answer as me, but this is the way I'm going to work it out just to be consistent. So you always know that I'm going to put the first point as 0.1, second point as 0.2. Okay, so in this one, I'm going to get two double negatives that I have to turn into positives. That happens a lot with the slope formula, and it's going to be 8 over 0. Well, anything with the 0 on the bottom is undefined. Undefined slope. All right, for this one, we have a typo. This 4 is not supposed to be here. Take that out. And it's -3 minus the y value here of -3. And it's going to be -5 minus the y value here of 5, of the x value. And -5 minus 5 is a -10. And up here I have a double negative, and it's going to be 0. Well, when the 0 is on the top, that makes rational sense. So the slope is just 0. All right, this one, I'm going to take my -2 and subtract my 3 from it. And on the bottom, I'm going to take the x value here, 3, and subtract the 1. So this is adding up my debt, and I get a -5 over 2. Okay? Or you could turn that into the mixed number of -1, or sorry, -2, and I was thinking about the fraction, and 1 over 2. All right, so take my y value and subtract it from my other y value. Take my x value and subtract it from my other x value, and I'm going to get a double negative. That's going to give me a -3 over 7, and the slope is just -3/7. In here, I take my y value and I subtract my other y value of a -3, and then I take my 7 and I subtract my 1. Very important that if I take this y value first, I got to take this x value first. Those go to positive, giving me a 6 on the top. 7 minus 1 is 6. Our slope is 1. All right, got to take my y value of -6 minus my y value over here of 0. This y value minus this y value. Oh no, I'm going to get another -6 over 0, which is an undefined slope. All right, in this one, my y value minus my other y value, my x value minus my other x value, and that is going to be 0 over 10, which is a slope of 0. All right, so 8, my y value minus my other y value. Make sure you bring that negative. You don't just drop one because you have two of them. And then this x value minus my other x value. Make my double negatives positives, and I get a 10 over 2, which is a slope of 5. All right, let's do some word problems. And these word problems, we're still just trying to find slope. Okay, so the table shows the number of days you keep a rented movie before returning it, the total cost of the renting a movie. Find the rate of change in the cost. So in this one, we're looking at how much it changes per day. Obviously, it doesn't start accruing my late fees until the fourth day, so I must be able to rent it out until the fourth day with no problem. All right, so all I have to do is pick two of my points. I'm just going to pick the first 2 points to find slope with. Now, it should go without saying, I hope I mentioned it by now in the class, but time is most always X. So most of the time it's X. There are a few rare situations where you're comparing two different types of times. If I'm looking at how many minutes pass, that I'm doing a certain activity in a month, then we have two X's and we got to kind of differentiate that. So there are a couple, but if there's only one X time value, it should be X when we're talking about it from an algebraic point of view. From a statistics point of view, you can flip your axes, but that's because it's not a true coordinate plane that you're graphing on. Okay, so my formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. My y value of my first point, of my second point, minus my y value of my first point, my x value of my first point minus my y value of my first point, and I want you to see some things that make sense too, just in case I didn't have time in class. And we get a slope of 225. And that makes sense because as time is progressing, our money is increasing. So I should have gotten a positive slope. I should have been able to see that before I did my math, that I was going to get a positive slope. All right. So in this one, the table shows the amount. Oh, first, let me go on to this. I know it doesn't say, it says find the rate of change with the cost respect to the interpretation of its meaning. So basically, it wants you to interpret its meaning as well. So there is a change. The late fee is $2.25 per day. Per day. So that's what it means. Write it in a sentence. What does that slope mean? All right, the table shows the amount of time spent at an amusement park and an admission fee. Find the rate of change in the fee with respect to time spent in the park and interpret its meaning. So there must be a flat fee until we get to 4 hours in this one. But after we hit 4 hours, oh, the flat fee stays the same. So as we can see, there is no rate of change. There's no change in price. Price is always $34.99. So our slope is 0. There's no change in our y value. I could do that mathematically by looking at 4 and 34.99 and this other point 5 and 34.99. And when I go to subtract my y values, I'm going to find that they totally disappear, which is a 0 slope. Now I want you to see something interesting in this one. So let's say I wanted to write the equation of this one. Okay, so I have my m, it's 0. It doesn't really matter what x is going to be. I'm going to use that first point though to illustrate my point. All right, that's going to be 0 and b is going to equal 34.99. No matter what I put in for x, I'm going to get a 0. It's going to be 0. I could write an equation and it would look something like this, but that should be an x. It basically, no matter what I put in x, it's going to go to 0, so I can actually get rid of that part of my graph, and the equation for this line is just y equals 34.99. My cost into the park is always the same. It's always 34.99. All right, so my slope in this one is a 0. I know that was a lot just to explain that, but I wanted to make sure you got that conceptual meaning. All right, here's our last one. Ocean levels are measured hourly by monitoring the station. By a monitoring station, the table shows the water levels in meters in one morning. So hours is our time, and water will be our x. Describe the rate of change in the waters throughout the morning. So I need to take 2 points. I'm going to take that one. Oh, goodness me. Is this consistent? Is this a consistent change? Let's try a few. All right, so if I do this one, if I find the slope of this set of numbers, I'm going to get 102 over 2, which is 51. Okay? All right, let's look at another one. Let's look at 8 and 0.5 and 10 and 1. And that is going to be 0.5 and 2, and I need to rationalize that. So it's 1/2 divided by 2, 1/2 times 1/2 equals 1/4. So I went from 51 to a slope of 1/4. Remember, linear lines have to have a consistent rate of change. Here is an example of a graph of a table of values that does not have a consistent rate of change. So when I describe the rate of change, the rate of change is not consistent. Therefore, this is not a linear line. All right, that's all for this video. I'll see you guys in class, and we will learn some more about word problems and parallel and perpendicular lines.